Damiris Dantas to miss 4 games in late June, early July, as she'll go to Chile to play in an American W Cup with the Brazilian national team.
Dantas is gone for, 5 games? And with Damiris Dantas going after the next game, the USA Basketball was asking, was this a possibility? Did Caitlin want to go to Paris for the 3v3 team?
Caitlin Clark did have another option to get to Paris, the USA women's basketball 10-3-on-3 team
of Jillia Lane working out in fever gear. Recent.
2 bombshells just dropped. Damiris Dantas is out, and Caitlin Clark has said no to Team USA. If you stand with Caitlin, drop a CC 100% in the comments right now. This is bigger than basketball. It's about respect, leadership, and knowing your worth. Let's break it down.
The USA Basketball was asking, was this a possibility? Did Caitlin want to go to Paris for the 3v3 team? The answer from Clark and her team was simple: no. She did not want to go to Paris.
Damiris Dantas didn't just take a break. She left right in the middle of a critical stretch of the season. And no, this wasn't some random injury or a last-minute issue. This was planned. She left the Indiana Fever to join the Brazilian national team for the FIBA Women's AmeriCup. And she's expected to miss 4 to 5 games during this time.
Damiris Dantas to miss 4 games in late June, early July, as she'll go to Chile to play in an American W Cup with the Brazilian national team. That's crazy, bro.
Now think about this. The Fever are already hanging on by a thread. Their record is shaky, momentum is fading, and they're fighting just to stay at .500, a bare minimum mark of respectability. And now one of their key players walks away during the most important run of the season.
They need to win 2 of 3 games. And that's to just be at 500. For them to be above 500 going into July, they have to win 3 games in a row.
Even worse, the coaching staff barely seemed to trust Dantas to begin with. She didn't play against top opponents like A'ja Wilson, and yet somehow the team was still relying on her presence in the rotation. If she wasn't valued enough to be used strategically, how big of a loss is this really? Or more importantly, what does it say about how confused the Fever's internal leadership really is?
Dantas wasn't even seen she wasn't even seen as worth playing yesterday. So if that's against A'ja, how is she meant to deal with Nneka, who, newsflash, has been better than A'ja Wilson this year? Nneka's been better than A'ja. If she's not good enough to come on to play against A'ja Wilson, then how is she going to be good enough to play against Nneka Nwumike?
But here's where it gets more dysfunctional. Because Dantas is gone for international duty, the Fever can't even qualify for a hardship exemption. That means they're stuck either ride it out with what little depth they have or make a long-term roster move. And this isn't hypothetical. The Fever are now left scrambling, considering players like Jillian Elaine, a name that didn't impress in preseason, hasn't proven anything at the WNBA level, and yet now may become part of the solution simply because she's available.
Of Jillia Lane working out in fever gear. Recent. This makes sense. This makes sense because if you guys have looked, almost every single hardship player, or almost every single player that's been brought in, is a player that was already on their team. It was a player that was already on their team. Like the Valkyries brought back Chloe Bibby. They brought back Caitlin Chen. They brought back Letitia Amihere. They brought back everybody. And this is a rumor, and I mean, I think there might be some merit to this rumor. And I'd like to see how she get on, in fairness. I didn't think she looked good in preseason. I didn't think she looked good in preseason at all. But it's something, I guess.
It gets worse. The last signing they made, Brianna Turner, who's been a disaster. She can't shoot, she can't defend, and she barely survives on the floor. And now with Dantas gone, Turner is being asked to play heavier minutes. That's not a rotation, that's survival mode. Let's be honest, Dantas' departure didn't create the cracks. It exposed them. This was a roster held together by hope and marketing, not basketball logic. And when someone like Dantas leaves not due to injury, not due to internal drama, but just to play overseas, it tells you one thing loud and clear.
Bree Turner was like their last signing. She was their last signing. Who made that decision? And by the way, Bree Turner was in the gym the entire time. Bree Turner cannot shoot from more than 2 feet away from the basket. Bree Turner cannot score a layup. Bree Turner's not even a good defender at this point in time. Like, I just don't know why this was what ended up happening. I don't know how the Fever got into a situation where your choices are play Bree Turner or don't, or play a nobody. Like, we're left with Bree Turner's choice, but I've talked enough about Bree Turner earlier on today in a video that's going out a little bit later today. And then who's potentially coming in to replace Damiris Dantas. But at the end of the day,
what happened with Caitlin Clark and Team USA isn't just a miscommunication. It's a full-blown failure in leadership, branding, and respect. And no matter how much damage control they try to run now, the truth is out. Caitlin Clark was never really wanted. And when they tried to backtrack, it was already too late.
They didn't want her. I don't know if they wanted Caitlin Clark. They either didn't want Caitlin Clark to play or didn't want Caitlin Clark the person. We don't know. They didn't want her there.
At first glance, the headlines painted it as Caitlin being left off the Olympic roster. That alone had fans furious. But the deeper story is even more insulting. Team USA didn't just cut her, they offered her a consolation prize. A spot on the 3x3 team, not the main stage, not the roster that truly defines global women's basketball. No, they wanted the biggest star in the game right now to play half court in a side event that barely gets national attention. And Caitlin? She turned it down.
The USA Basketball was asking, was this a possibility? Did Caitlin want to go to Paris for the 3v3 team? The answer from Clark and her team was simple, no. She did not want to go to Paris. So, we're now at the stage where Team USA tried to get her to play 3-on-3 basketball. And by the way, a style of basketball I don't think she's very good at. A 3v3 basketball involves switchability, involves 1v1 defense, and involves isolation scoring. I don't think she'd be a great 3-on-3 player.
Not out of pride, not because she was above it, but because the path they offered wasn't real. She wasn't eligible under FIBA rules to play 3x3 in Paris. She didn't have the ranking points, never competed in official tournaments, and the only way she could have qualified would have been by skipping WNBA games mid-season to join minor events overseas. That's what they were offering her to risk her professional season for a side door entry into a team she should have been leading from the front. It wasn't a fair opportunity, it was a setup.
And yeah, this is a kind of crazy take from Christine Brennan, finding out the Team USA were trying to get her to play 3v3 when she wasn't allowed. Like, based on FIBA rules, she was never going to be allowed to play. And according to Christine Brennan, they were still talking about maybe we could figure out a way to get her to play. And to be fair, the only way they could have got her to play was her missing time in the WNBA season to go play in a couple of 3-on-3 tournaments. Because I'm pretty sure there were World Series 3-on-3 tournaments that could have gotten her into the top 50.
And it's even more embarrassing when you realize that USA Basketball knew this. They knew the eligibility rules. They knew she didn't have the rankings. And yet they still floated the offer as if to say, look, we tried. But fans saw right through it. They saw a federation more interested in optics than honesty. And Caitlin? She didn't fall for it. But here's where it stings the most she would have gone if they had done the right thing from the start. This is a player who has represented her country in U16 and U19 tournaments, someone who has always carried herself with pride, composure, and grit. But when it came time to represent Team USA on the biggest stage, she was suddenly overlooked. Not for talent, not for performance, but because, quite frankly, they just didn't want her.
They were still talking about maybe we could figure out a way to get her to play. And to be fair, the only way they could have got her to play was...
Caitlin Clark did have another option to get to Paris, the USA women's basketball 3-on-3 team. Even though she had never played on a national 3-on-3 team, she had experience on USA under 16 and under 19 5-on-5 teams. USA Basketball offered her a spot on the 3x3 team well before June, knowing there was a qualifying event for her to play.
No one will say it outright. Instead, we get vague excuses. She's not a fit for 3x3 style. She's not a good one, BV1 defender. She doesn't isolate enough. But ask yourself, is anyone honestly buying that? Caitlin Clark has redefined what it means to generate offense in women's basketball. She's not just a shooter, she's a visionary. Her ability to control tempo, spread the floor, and elevate teammates is what every team dreams of building around. Yet Team USA couldn't find a spot for her on a roster of 12? That's not basketball logic. That's personal.
A 3v3 basketball involves switchability, involves 1v1 defense, and involves isolation scoring. I don't think she should be a great 3-on-3 player. We can be honest, I don't think she would be. Because she kind of gets other players involved. It's not her game. But like, they were still trying to kind of make right by saying, you know what, we screwed up. We screwed up about the 3-on-3 team. But it is funny when it comes to Christine Brown and some of the stuff she said. There's another excerpt from it. And it was like, it's becoming more and clear why they left Caitlin Clark off. And they were like, was it because of ability? Was it because of this? And it was like, simply put, because they wanted to. And that's the best way to describe it. They didn't want her there. There doesn't have to be any rhyme or reason to it, because a lot of the time they're out there trying to give reasons to it.
And the worst part is, they tried to spin her rejection of the 3x3 offer as her fault, as if she turned down her country. But in reality, she turned down a cheap cover-up, a last-minute PR move that only deepened the disrespect. She wasn't just cut. She was set up to look ungrateful, when in fact, she's the one who's been disrespected from the start. It's not about a medal, it's about how we treat the faces of the game. Team USA had a chance to build something historic to feature Caitlin Clark on the world's biggest platform at the peak of her momentum. Instead, they gambled on politics, and they lost the trust of millions. This wasn't just a mistake, it was a message. And the message to Caitlin Clark was clear.
Now, Correlation stated she was literally ineligible. From my understanding, I thought that was the case. I thought Caitlin Clark wasn't eligible to play. That's what the reports are saying. Now, people are saying her turning down the invitation is what made it made her not ineligible. So this is the report here. Say Caitlin Clark did have another option to get to Paris, the USA women's basketball 10 3-on-3 team, even though she had never played on a national 3-on-3 team.
If Dantas leaving was a red flag and Caitlin Clark's rejection of Team USA was a slap in the face, then the bigger truth we need to confront is this: both of these moments are symptoms of a broken system. One that's mismanaging talent, mishandling pressure, and slowly unraveling right in front of us. Start with the Indiana Fever, a franchise that was supposed to be rebuilding around the most electrifying rookie in years. They had the #1 pick. They had the spotlight. They had momentum. And what have they done with it? They've surrounded Caitlin Clark with a shaky bench, inconsistent rotations, and no clear offensive identity. They're not building around her, they're surviving off her.
This is a very, very lazy front office. It's a very lazy front office. And I think they're probably too busy worrying about how they can market what their next marketing campaign is going to be, to sell more t-shirts and to flex on the rest of the league. I think they're more worried about that than they are about the players.
Every week, it's patchwork. Someone leaves, someone else is randomly brought in. Brianna Turner gets signed despite not being WNBA ready. Jillian Elaine starts popping up in fever gear again, even though she failed to impress in preseason. These aren't championship moves. These are band-aids on a sinking ship. And the irony? Damiris Dantas' exit could have been a moment of recalibration, a wake-up call. But instead of preparing to fill the gap, the Fever looks surprised. Again, as if they didn't know a key player had international obligations, as if this team is being run on autopilot.
Bree Turner was like their last signing. She was their last signing. Who made that decision? And by the way, Bree Turner was in the gym the entire time. Bree Turner cannot shoot from more than 2 feet away from the basket. Bree Turner cannot score a layup. Bree Turner is not even a good defender at this point in time. Of Jillia Lane working out in fever gear. Recent. And I don't know, this makes sense. This makes sense because if you guys have looked, almost every single hardship player, or almost every single player that's been brought in, is a player that was already on the team. It was a player that was already on the team. And with Damiris Dantas going after the next game, it's just not a good sign. It's not a good sign, and things are not going well for the Fever just all around.
Meanwhile, Caitlin Clark is doing everything she can. She's showing up, competing, putting her body on the line every night. But watch her closely, the joy she played with at Iowa, the energy, the swagger it's fading. Not because she's lost her edge, but because the system she walked into was never designed to support her. Her rookie year should have been historic, and yet week after week, it's marred by chaos injuries, awkward substitutions, tension in the locker room, a revolving door of role players, and now the fallout from her Olympic omission. This isn't a development year anymore, it's survival.
Before Caitlin Clark seems to have lost her smile. It seems like everything got to her. This is something that is really interesting. It is really interesting around the Olympics. And at this stage, I don't think that there was ever a chance of her making the 5v5. And I don't know why there was ever that hope being given to her and that hope being given to fans. I think it was just a string of long fans.
And the blame doesn't fall on the players, it falls on leadership, on the Fever front office that made hype their strategy instead of roster depth, on the coaching staff that can't figure out how to optimize generational talent, and on a national program that used Clark's name for clout, but never truly wanted her in the picture. Let's be real. Had Caitlin Clark been marketed the way male rookies are, with a team that's built to elevate, protect, and grow her, this year could have been iconic. Instead, she's caught between two broken systems, one that couldn't even give her a stable team to lead, and another that had the chance to give her the Olympic stage and handed her a dead-end offer instead. But perhaps the most frustrating part is this: no one's being held accountable.
I would have taken Jaylen Brown on this roster. She at least tries. And as expected, she cooked the Fever just like she did last year and has done nothing to anyone else. But yeah, like I have absolutely no idea what's gonna happen with the Fever. And I think it's likely. The likelihood is she's out here warming up.
Not the executives making last-minute roster moves that don't make basketball sense. Not the Olympic selection committee that can't be honest about why they left out their most impactful star. Not even the coaching staff, who still look lost even after half a season of mistakes. Meanwhile, fans are watching in real time as Caitlin Clark's prime is being squandered before it even begins. We're watching a promising team become a cautionary tale. And we're watching a young star one who filled arenas, moved the needle, inspired millions be reduced to a marketing tool without the support to actually win.
This is a very, very lazy front office. It's a very lazy front office. And I think they're probably too busy worrying about how they can market what their next marketing campaign is going to be to sell more t-shirts and to flex on the rest of the league. I think they're more worried about that than they are about the players. They were still talking about maybe we could figure out a way to get her to play. And to be fair, the only way they could have got her to play was her missing time in the WNBA season to go play in a couple of 3-on-3 tournaments.
So here we are. Damiris Dantas has stepped away. Caitlin Clark has walked away from Team USA. And what's left behind is more than just empty minutes on a court. It's a system exposed, a franchise confused, and a fan base asking, this isn't about one player leaving for a tournament or one rookie declining a roster spot. This is about leadership failing talent, about vision being replaced with short-term noise, and about a generation of players led by names like Caitlin Clark being forced to carry the weight of brands, leagues, and teams that aren't ready to support them.
Damiris Dantas to miss 4 games in late June, early July, as she'll go to Chile to play in an American W Cup with the Brazilian national team.
USA Basketball was asking, was this a possibility? Did Caitlin want to go to Paris for the 3v3 team? When you're looking at this, I think it's a tough one to see what's happening, because I don't exactly know what players the Indiana Fever could get. And with Damiris Dantas going after the next game,
if the Fever want to keep Clark, and if Team USA wants to restore its integrity, it starts with accountability. Because one thing is clear, comment C 100% right now to show you're riding for her until this league wakes up.